Okay, oh my gosh, I am so sorry to anyone who was watching that and my lips were moving and you weren't hearing anything. Somehow my microphone got disconnected, which I have no idea how that happened. So that was a really great start. I'm glad I didn't actually read anything yet and I was just blabbing. So sorry about that. Good thing I noticed before I streamed the entire thing mute like a dweeb. Don't worry, you didn't really miss anything important. I'll go back. I'll explain why Eyeless Jack is in D tier. So, this is my chart. We're gonna update it as we go, with different creepypasta characters. So last time we read Smile Dog, Jeff the Killer, and Eyeless Jack. So I didn't have the tier list because you need 5 images. So today we're gonna read Laughing Jack, Mr. Widemouth. At some point I would like to review the Marble Hornet series. We might only watch a few videos today. I'm probably not gonna sit down and watch all like 60 uploads on that channel alone and then go to the ARC channel and do that. Like, don't get me wrong, I would love to make a long form video on specifically Slender's proxies in the future, but I don't think we're gonna do that today. But I did put them on the list because they're like, they're classics. We'll get to them eventually. If you're wondering, that's not Smile Dog. That is a small little poodle looking thing. You're right. I swear I did download the image of Smile Dog. Could not find it. It probably became a virus and corrupted my hardware and whatnot, as all smile.jpegs are. But she is a dog, so she is the placeholder until I get a better picture for him. And then today we're going to be reading Laughing Jack, Mr. Widemouth, and then any other suggestions. Sorry, I was just double checking that was the correct one. And that's the one I have pulled up. Honestly, I never pictured Mr. Widemouth like this because they describe him as a Furby, so my brain always just went to a Furby. But I decided to not use the Furby image. I decided not to. So, Eyeless Jack is in D tier because the tiers are based off of like how memorable something is, how likely are you to spread it. And, it's pretty good. And by it's pretty good, I mean it was the first one I ever read, so I'm very biased. But it's just really short. It's not... There's like no logic in it almost, which at some point, if something's really illogical, it's really funny and you want to send it to people, as we'll see in a little bit. But it just didn't feel too special. Honestly, I think it's one of the ones where the image hits harder than the story. But I do like Eyeless Jack as a character. If we were just ranking them based off of the character and how fandoms have thus interpreted the character, Eyeless Jack would be way higher because a lot of times people are like, he's probably a demon. And I'm just like, well, what are you gonna do with that? But honestly, his base story, a little bit of D tier, sadly. Now, Jeff the Killer. This is also one where the picture hits harder than the actual reading. Now, that being said, the story is so funny. I remembered a lot of, like, the, key points that I thought were funny when I listened to, I think it was Internet Historian's recounting of the story, which, if you haven't checked that out, check it out before you check out, like, either my old live stream or when I upload it, because they not only do they voice act it, which is beautiful, but, they also make a video for it, and I think Jeff the Killer, if I remember right, is Mark Zuckerberg. It's really good. It's a good laugh. Jeff the Killer, honestly, that picture, horrifying. I will even say that, like, right now. Not really how the story describes him, but I think the story was written after the image came out. But, based off of that, like, I'll jokingly join Discord calls and be like, okay, guys, who's ready for their bedtime story? Who's ready for their bedtime story? And then I'll just jump to the section of Randy in Jeff the Killer. And sometimes people are like, no, keep reading. I like bedtime story. which is why I've recorded it and I'm going to post it on my channel once I cut out all the giggling. Hello, I'm back for more. That's a great way to describe it of what this is gonna be. But because of how funny Jeff the Killer is, A tier. And then Smile Dog, which, as I mentioned, I have no idea where the image went. I did have issues with the vocabulary, but honestly, the rest of it was pretty great. It was just like weird vocabulary for the age that the person claimed to be. But like the story was great. It's like, yep, here's this thing. It haunts your dreams. You have to get rid of it. Very chainmail centric, which was very popular when I was like elementary school to middle school. So it is a bit more dated per se, because I don't think chainmail is as big these days. But I will also put it on A tier. You know, I'm gonna put it before Jeff the Killer, because that is like an actually creepy story. As long as you're using the human teeth. But other than that, so those are the ones we've read. And then we have a couple more to read today. My dog Wendy, who I used as Smile Dog, is looking very harsh at me. Do you want some kibble before I start? You woke me up at 3 a.m. because you had to poop. Okay, I'll be right back. Dated, but a classic. Honestly, sometimes the things that are dated are the best. Because it, you know, it really audience captures. It doesn't try to be more than it is. Okay, I'll be right back. I have to give my dog food, I think. Her food bowl is right next to my computer, so if you heard that, that was me feeding her. But yeah, so those are the stories that we're going to be reading today. Laughing Jack, which I don't know if I've actually ever read, and then Mr. Widemouth, and then, you know, anything else we can think of along the way. But these are the ones that I thought of in advance, so let's get my storytelling situation all set up. Me big again. Get my audio capture device, which I meant to open, but like I said when I was muted for the first like 12 minutes, it wasn't 12 minutes, but it was a good while. I made mac and cheese and I forgot that water takes forever to boil, so that's where all my prep time went, me making mac and cheese. I also tried to draw a thumbnail for this, which I'll probably use in post. It's great. It's me reading a book with Laughing Jack creeping over my shoulders. It's so kawaii. Hi, Wendy. Do you want to get under the desk? It's better if you try to get on from the other side, because then there's not wires that are going to be in your way. Hot tip for my dog. Okay, audition. It's going to take forever to load. Okay. Let's start with Laughing Jack, because I always forget Laughing Jack even has like a story. I thought he was just like one of those images for the longest time. But I was watching a Creepcast and Wendigoon was like, you loved Laughing Jack. That's why we did it for the live show. We were originally going to do Mr. Widemouth. And I know Mr. Widemouth. That was also one of the ones I heard on my Girl Scout retreat. One of my first ones. And I was like, I don't think I've ever heard Laughing Jack before. Okay, give me a second. It looks like, you know, I lost Wi-Fi for like most of yesterday. I was luckily at work, but I think it messed up my mic because my mic was off here and it looks like it's also messed up here. So now I have to go find hardware. Oh gosh. It has been forever since I've done this. Oh, Wendy! I love my dog. I love her. She's decided to step over my cords. And now she's kind of stuck. And I have to help her. Because I told her to go in from the other side. And she said, I'm not going to though. I can step over cords and then proceed to not. And almost bully all of the cords right out of my computer. Good girl, Wendy. Good baby. Yes, here and here I'm able to see. Yeah, no, you don't get to see what I'm doing because I'm embarrassed, and you'll be like, no, it was right there, you idiot. Why didn't you click it? I'll be like, oh, no, I'm dumb. Sorry. I swear, I've done this like 10 times. You know, I'm just gonna... Microphone, give me a second. Good. No. Usually if I plug something in, it gets weird and it... Yeah, can you let me... There we go, audio hardware. Yeah, for some reason it's trying to go through my webcam. Which I don't know why it would do that. Because my webcam is really bad at recording audio. Oh, she does it adorably. She's the cutest little baby ever. And now she's laying under the desk, which is really cute and sweet and good of her. I just wish she would have gone through the other side that didn't have a whole bunch of wires hanging off of it. Okay, it is recording the audio properly now. So now we are going to read... Oh, I'm not even on the right one. My AC unit's on, frick. Give me a second. They don't turn off the boiler until, like, really good into spring, and it makes the apartment so hot. It's so bad. Not even on the right page. Okay. Laughing Jack. I've never read this one before, like I mentioned, so it's gonna be fun. I hope. I hope Meat Canyon's judgment on what a good creepypasta is will be good. I have to do a matronly voice, because it looks like a mom's writing this. And if not, it's going to be a real funny dad. It was a nice summer day. My 5-year-old James was playing outside in the backyard of our suburban home. James had always been a quiet boy. He plays by himself mostly. He never had many friends, but he has always had a wild imagination. I was in the kitchen feeding our dog Fido when I heard what sounded like James talking to someone in the backyard. I'm not sure who it was he could be talking to. Could he have finally made a friend? Being a single mom, it's hard for me to always keep my eye on my son, so I decided to go outside and check on him. When I went into the backyard, I was a bit confused, because James was the only person back there. Was he talking to himself? I could have sworn I heard another voice. James, it's time to come inside. I called out to him. He came inside and sat down at the kitchen table. It was about lunchtime, so I decided to make him a turkey sandwich. James, who were you talking to out there? I asked. James looked up for a moment. I was playing with my new friend, he said, smiling. I poured him some milk and continued to pry, as any good mother would. Does your friend have a name? Why didn't you ask him to have lunch with us? I asked. James stared at me for a moment before replying, His name's Laughing Jack. I was a bit taken aback by what he said. Oh, that's a strange name. What does your friend look like? I asked, a bit confused. He's a clown. He has long hair and a big swirly cone nose. He got long arms and baggy pants with stripy socks. And he always smiles. I realized my son was talking about an imaginary friend. I suppose it's normal for kids his age to have imaginary friends, especially when he has no real kids to play with. It's probably just a phase. There was one imaginary friend, that's what there was. The rest of the day went by as per usual, and it was starting to get late, so I put James to bed. I tucked him in, gave him a kiss, and made sure to turn on his nightlight before I closed the door. I was pretty tired myself, so I decided to go to bed not long after. I had an awful nightmare. It was dark. I was in some kind of run-down amusement park. I was scared, running through an endless field of empty tents and broken-down rides and abandoned game huts. The whole place had a horrible look to it. Everything was black and white. The prized stuffed animals all hung from nooses in the game huts, all with sick grins stitched on their face. It felt like the whole park was looking at me, even though there wasn't another living thing in sight. Then, suddenly, I began to hear music play. The sound of Pop Goes the Weasel being played on the squeeze box echoed through the park. It was hypnotizing. I followed its tune to the circus tent, almost in a trance, unable to stop my legs from moving forward. It was pitch black. The only light came from a single spotlight shining on the center of the big top. As I walked towards the light, the music slowed down, and I found myself singing along, unable to stop. All around the mulberry bush, the monkey chased the weasel. The monkey thought 'twas all in fun. The music stopped right before its climax, and suddenly the lights shot on. The intensity of the lights was practically blinding. All I could see was a small, dark silhouette shuffle towards me. Then another one appeared, and another, and another. There were dozens of them, all coming towards me. I couldn't move. My legs were frozen. All I could do was watch as the haunting figures drew nearer. As they got closer, I could see they were children. As I looked at each one, I noticed they were all horribly disfigured and mutilated. Some had cuts all over their bodies, others were severely burnt, and others were missing limbs, even eyes. The children enveloped me, clawing my flesh, dragging me to the ground, and tearing inside of me. As the children tore me apart, I faded away. All I could hear was laughter. Horrible, awful, evil laughter. I woke up the next morning in a cold sweat. After taking a few deep breaths, I looked over and I saw a few of James' action figures were positioned facing me on top of the nightstand. I have some kind of trauma from Pop Goes the Weasel. It chills me to the bones. You know, it is used a lot, I feel. In, in scary situations. You know, it fits well. The original thing that comes from, or its most popular usage, is the Jack in the Box, which, although can be fun, can also just be, super stressful as a kid. You're just I know it's gonna come out, but I'm gonna do it, and it's built. It's built to make you anticipate, and not necessarily in a good way. I looked over and saw that a few of James's action figures were positioned facing me on top of my nightstand. I sighed. James had probably woken up early and put these here. I gathered up the toys and made my way to James' room. However, when I opened the door, James was sound asleep. I just shrugged and placed the toys back into his toy box and headed out to the living room. A little while later, James woke up and I made him his breakfast. He was quiet and seemed a bit groggy. Perhaps he didn't sleep well either. I decided to ask him about the toys. James, honey, did you put the toys in Mommy's room this morning? His eyes shot up at me for a moment, then quickly glanced back down to his cereal. Laughing Jack did it. I rolled my eyes and responded, Well, you tell Laughing Jack to keep the toys in your room. James nodded and finished up his breakfast, then decided to go play outside in the backyard. I went to relax in the living room, and I must have dozed off because I woke up a couple hours later. Shit! I need to check on James! I was a bit worried. It had been over 2 hours, and I haven't checked on him. I stepped out into the backyard, but James wasn't there anymore. I was getting nervous, so I called out to him, James! James, where are you? Just then, I heard a giggle come from the front yard. I rushed through the gate and around the front of the house. James was sitting on the sidewalk. I breathed a sigh of relief, and I walked over to him. James, how many times have I told you to stay in the backyard? James, what are you eating? James looked up at me, then reached in his pocket and pulled out a handful of hard candies in all colors. This made me very nervous. James, who gave you that candy? James just stared at me, not speaking. James, please tell Mommy where you got the candy. James hung his head down and said, I think Jack gave it to me. My heart sunk. I kneeled down to look at him in the eyes. James, I have had enough of this damn Laughing Jack thing. He is not real. Now, this is a very serious situation, and I need to know who gave you the candy. I could see my son's eyes tear up. But Mama, Laughing Jack did give me the candy. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. James has never lied to me, but what he's telling me is impossible.
I make him spit out the candy, and I throw the rest away. James appears to be fine. Maybe I am just overreacting. After all, he could have gotten it from Tom and Linda, from next door, or Mr. Walker down the street. Either way, I am going to have to keep a closer eye on James. That night, I put James to bed as usual, and decided to go to bed early myself. Suddenly, I was woken up by a loud bang coming from the kitchen. I sprung out of bed and hurried down the stairs. When I got to the kitchen, I was horrified. Everything on the counters had been thrown on the floor.
This isn't a funny sentence. It's just one of those sentences that punch you in the face and you snap out of whatever you're doing. Okay.
When I got to the kitchen, I was horrified. Everything on the counters had been thrown on the floor, and our dog Fido hung dead from the light fixture. His stomach was cut open and stuffed with candy, the same type that James was eating earlier that day. My shock was quickly broken by a sharp scream coming from James' room, followed by loud crashes. I quickly grabbed a knife from the drawer and moved up the stairs with the speed that only a mother whose child is in danger could have. I burst through the door and flicked on the lights. Everything in the room was knocked over and tossed on the floor. My poor son in his bed, crying and shaking with fear, a pool of urine staining the sheets. I scooped my child up and ran out of the house and went next door to Tom and Linda's house. Luckily, they were still awake. They let me use their phone and I called the police. It didn't take them long to arrive, and I explained what had happened. They looked at me if I were crazy. They searched the house, but all they found was a dead dog and 2 trashed rooms. The officer told me that someone had probably gotten in the house and done this right before making a quick escape when they heard me coming up the stairs. I knew it wasn't true. All the doors were locked and none of the windows were open. Whatever was in my house did not come from the outside. The next day, James stayed inside. I didn't want him to leave my sight. I went to the garage and found his old baby monitor, and I set it up in his room. If anything comes in tonight, I was going to be able to hear it. I went to the kitchen and grabbed the largest knife from the drawer and put it on my nightstand. Imaginary friend or not, I'm not letting anything hurt my little boy.
Yeah, I know. Like, the dog wasn't talked about a lot. I feel like most kids would be playing with the dog or something in the backyard, or like the dog would be there. But I think the dog was just here for a shock factor, honestly. But you know what? Fair enough. Shocking.
Soon enough, night came. I put James to bed. He was afraid, but I promised him that I wasn't going to let anything happen to him. I tucked him in, I gave him a kiss, and I turned on the nightlight. Before closing the door, I whispered to him, "Good night, James. I love you." I tried to stay up for as long as I could, but after a few hours, I felt myself drifting off. My baby would be safe for the night. I just needed to sleep. Just as I laid my head on the pillow, I heard a soft noise come from the baby monitor I had put on my nightstand. At first, it sounded like interference, like the kind a radio would make. Then it turned into a soft moan. Was James asleep? Then I heard it. The laugh from my nightmare. That horrible laugh. I sprung up from the bed and I grabbed the knife from under my pillow. I rushed over to James' room and creaked the door open. I tried the light switch, but it wouldn't come on. I took a step in and I could feel the warm, thick liquid on my feet. Suddenly, James' night light came on, and I could see the absolute horror laid out in front of me. James' body was nailed up on the wall, the nails piercing through his hands and feet. His chest was cut wide open, and his organs hung down to the floor. His eyes and tongue had been removed along with most his teeth. I was disgusted. I could hardly believe this was my baby boy. And I heard it again, the soft, desperate moan. James was still alive. My baby, my poor baby, in so much pain, barely clinging to life. I ran across the room and vomited on the floor, but my sickness was interrupted by a horrible crackle coming from behind me. I spun around, still wiping bile from my mouth. Then out of the shadows emerged the fiend responsible for all this horror, Laughing Jack. His ghost-white skin and matted black hair hung down to his shoulders. He had piercing white eyes surrounded by dark black rings. His twisted smile revealed a row of sharp, jagged teeth. His skin didn't look like skin at all. It almost looked like rubber or plastic. He wore a patchy black and white clown outfit with striped sleeves and socks. His body itself was grotesque, his long arms hanging down well past his waist, and the way he was poised made him look almost boneless, like a rag doll. Yeah, no, it's gross. I can see why Hunter, aka Meat Canyon, was like, oh, I love this story. We're going to read it at the live show. Did not think it was going to get like this. Sorry about that. But we're going to keep reading. Because I think we're probably near the end. Probably. I mean, this woman has to survive. This is her story, you know. Ragdoll. He let out a sickening laugh as to let me know he was pleased with my reaction to his work. He then turned around slowly in front of James and began to laugh even more at the horrific sight he had laid out. That was enough to shake me from my terror. I snapped, "Get away from him, you bastard!" I rushed the monster, raising the knife above my head, and stabbed down at him. But as soon as the knife touched him, he disappeared in a cloud of black smoke. The knife passed right through and pierced James' still beating heart, splashing the warm blood on my face. I don't think YouTube will like this. Oh yeah, probably not. But it's already here. They can take down my stream. I don't know if they will, because I only have like 2 viewers ever. No, what have I done? My baby. Killed my baby. I immediately fell to my knees, and I could hear sirens in the distance growing louder. My boy. My sweet baby boy. I promised Mommy would protect you, but I failed. I'm sorry, James. I am so sorry. Police soon arrived to find me in front of my son, still wielding the knife covered in my baby's blood. The trial was short. Insanity. I was placed in the Farapolosis house for the criminally insane. I have been for the past 2 months. It's not so bad here. The only reason I'm awake now is because someone's playing Pop Goes the Weasel outside my window. I'll talk to the orderlies about it in the morning. The end. There we go. That's it. That's a story. To be fair, I did mark this stream as not for kids, so hopefully no kids will watch it. Kids don't really watch live streams, I feel, so it should be fine. Yep, laughingjack.wave. Perfect. It is. That's actually, I was surprisingly well written. I was expecting it to be sillier. I feel like the character of Laughing Jack doesn't make a whole bunch of sense because he's like clearly like a demon or something. So I don't know what the kid did to summon him. And you could be like, well, it's just random chance. Well, why does he play with it? I don't know. It's good. Don't get me wrong. It's very grotesque. More grotesque than I was expecting from a clown story. I see why he's popular. Let's go to this one. Shrink me down again. Because now I have to think on the scale of creepypasta, which is like, how likely are you to spread it, to pasta it? Because it's written in the first person, I feel like that does somewhat hinder it. I don't know why I feel that way, I just do, gonna be honest. Good story. I don't know if it's A tier, though. Like, I get why he's popular, but I don't know if I would send it to someone else. I could see someone sending it, being like, oh, dude, you gotta read this one, it's so crazy. I'm gonna put it in B tier. Because, like, it's well written. It's believable enough. I'm gonna say believable enough. In so many creepypastas, the cops they act so weird. And I get it, like, you don't know how a police officer acts.
But it's just like, you call the police and they see your massacred dog and 2 rooms trashed, and they're just, what did the story say? It was like they didn't believe her, and it's like, okay, well, even if she was like, it's Laughing Jack the imaginary clown, you're like, okay, well, that's not believable. But clearly someone came into your house and trashed it. I liked when she swore, just because it felt really wrong, and that's partially due to the voice I was giving her, not gonna lie. That's partially on me. But they were just like, man, I need you to know how serious she is right now. James, I'm gonna drop the dam. But yeah, I think B tier is good for that. But what do y'all think? Yeah, I get that. I think my thing is that she's been in the criminally insane, so how did she post it type thing. Like I said, the first person works for that, but for like a creepypasta narrative almost. It makes it harder, I feel. But yeah, I'm gonna put in B tier. Maybe I'll change it one day. Maybe I'll read so many really bad creepypastas that it'll get upgraded to A tier or something. But for now, I'm just gonna have it in B tier, I think. Okay, go back to being big. And now we're gonna read Mr. Widemouth. Ooh. Yeah, you go eat. Eating's important. Okay, gonna get the audio file set up for Mr. Widemouth. Mr. Widemouth time. Woo! Okay. I have to think about this one. Because I always like to try and do a voice for the narrator. Like the last one I was trying to be the mom. When it's written in first person, at least. I think this person grows up, so I think it's fine if I do more of my normal reading voice. During my childhood, my family was like a drop of water in a vast river, never remaining in one location for so long. We settled in Rhode Island when I was 8, and there we remained until I went to college in Colorado Springs. Most of my memories are rooted in Rhode Island, but they are fragments of an attic of my brain which belonged to the various homes we lived in when I was much younger. Most of these memories are unclear and pointless, chasing after chasing after another boy in the backyard of a house in North Carolina, trying to build a raft to float on the creek behind the apartment we rented in Pennsylvania, and so on. But there's one set of memories which remains as clear as glass, as though they were made just yesterday. I often wondered whether they were simply lucid dreams produced by the long sickness I experienced that spring, but in my heart, I know they're real. We were living in a house just outside of the bustling metropolis of New Vineyard, Maine. Population 643. It was a large structure, especially for a family of 3. There were a number of rooms that I didn't see in the 5 months we resided there. In some ways, it was a waste of space, but it was the only house on the market at the time, at least within an hour's commute of my father's place of work. The day after my 5th birthday, attended by my parents alone, I came down with a fever. The doctor had said I had mononucleosis, which meant no rough play and more fever for at least another 3 weeks. It was a horrible time to be bedridden. We were in the process of packing our things to move to Pennsylvania, and most of my stuff was already sealed away in those boxes, leaving my room barren. My mother brought me ginger ale and books several times a day. They served the function of being my primary form of entertainment for the next few weeks. Boredom always loomed just around the corner, waiting to rear its ugly head and compound my misery. I didn't exactly recall how I met Mr. Widemouth. I think it was about a week after I was diagnosed with mono. My first memory of the small creature was asking him if he had a name. He told me to call him Mr. Widemouth, because his mouth was large. In fact, everything about him was large in comparison to his body. His head, his eyes, his crooked ears. But his mouth was by far the largest.
You kind of look like a Furby,
I said as he flipped through one of my books. Mr. Widemouth stopped and gave me a puzzled look.
Furby? What's a Furby?
He asked. I shrugged. You know, the toy, the little robot with big ears. You can stroke and feed them, almost like a real pet.
Oh,
Mr. Widemouth resumed his activity.
you don't need one of those. They aren't the same as having a real friend.
I remember Mr. Widemouth disappearing every time my mother stopped by to check on me.
I lay under your bed.
He later explained.
I don't want your parents to see me because I'm afraid they won't let us play anymore.
We didn't do much during those first few days. Mr. Widemouth just looked at my books, fascinated by the stories and pictures they contained. The third or fourth morning after I met him, he greeted me with a large smile on his face.
I have a new game we can play.
He said.
We have to wait until your mother comes to check on you because she can't see us playing it. It's a secret game.
After my mother delivered more books and sewed at the usual time, Mr. Widemouth slipped out from under the bed and tugged my hand.
We have to go to the room at the end of this hallway,
he said. I objected at first, as my parents had forbidden me to leave my bed without their permission. But Mr. Widemouth persisted until I gave in. The room in question had no furniture or wallpaper. Its only distinguishable feature was a window opposite the doorway. Mr. Widemouth darted across it and gave the window a firm push, flinging it open. He then beckoned me to look out at the ground below. We were on the second story of the house, but it was on a hill, and from this angle the drop was farther than 2 stories due to the incline.
I like to play pretend up here,
Mr. Widemouth explained.
I pretend that there's a big, soft trampoline below the window, and I jump. If you pretend hard enough, you bounce up like a feather. I want you to try.
Oh, dang. Mr. Widemouth's voice is killing me. You know, I thought, I should do a gremlin voice. I'm like, that's going to mess up my vocal cords. And then I did it anyways. It fits, I guess. I just also regret it. And I know he's going to start running his mouth later. Oof, I fear that. I was a 5-year-old with a fever, so only a hint of skepticism darted through my thoughts as I looked down and considered this possibility. It's a long drop, I said.
But that's part of the fun. It wouldn't be exciting if it was only a short drop. If it were that way, you may as well just bounce on a real trampoline.
I toyed with the idea, picturing myself falling through the thin air, only to bounce back to the window on something unseen by human eyes. But the realist in me prevailed. Maybe some other time, I said. I don't know if I have enough imagination. I could get hurt. Mr. Widemouth's face contorted into a snarl, but only for a moment. Anger gave way to disappointment.
If you say so,
he said. He spent the rest of the day under my bed, as quiet as a mouse. The following morning, Mr. Widemouth arrived holding a small box.
I want to teach you how to juggle,
he said.
Here are some things you can use to practice before I start giving you lessons.
Oh gosh. Okay, I have to get some water or juice or something. I'm not going to survive the story if I do not. I will be right back. I'm back. I'm just off camera because I'm also grabbing a blanket because my apartment's way too hot. So I have the window open. And I don't want to close it yet, but I am also right next to the window and it's freezing. Okay. Back. And the camera didn't disconnect, which is beautiful. is beautiful, guys. Okay, headset back on, ready to go. Okay. He wants me to practice juggling. I wonder what he could want me to juggle. I looked in the box. It was full of knives.
My parents will kill me,
I shouted, horrified that Mr. Widemouth had brought knives into my room, objects that my parents would never allow me to touch.
I'll be spanked and grounded for a year.
Mr. Widemouth frowned.
It's fun to juggle with these. I want you to try it.
I pushed the box away.
I can't. I'll get in trouble. Knives aren't safe to just throw around in the air.
Mr. Widemouth's frown deepened into a scowl. He took the box of knives and slid under my bed, remaining there for the rest of the day. I began to wonder how often he was underneath me. I started having trouble sleeping after that. Mr. Widemouth would often wake me up at night saying that he had put a real trampoline under that window, a big one that I couldn't see in the dark. I always declined and tried to go back to sleep, but Mr. Widemouth persisted. Sometimes he stayed by my side until early in the morning, encouraging me to jump. He wasn't so much fun to play with anymore. My mother came to me one morning and told me I had permission to walk around outside. She had thought the fresh air would be good for me, especially after being confined to my room for so long. Ecstatic, I put on my sneakers and trotted to the back porch, yearning for the feeling of the sun on my face. Mr. Widemouth was waiting for me.
I have something I want you to see,
He said. I must have given him a weird look, because he said,
It's safe. I promise.
I followed him to the beginning of the deer trail, which ran through the woods behind the house.
This is an important path.
He explained.
I have had a lot of friends about your age. When they were ready, I took them down this path.
Gosh, this is a horrible voice. Bad idea.
To a special place. You aren't ready yet, but one day, I hope to take you there.
I returned to the house, wondering what kind of place lay beyond that trail. Two weeks after I had met Mr. Widemouth, the last load of our things had been packed into a moving truck. I would soon be in the cab of that truck, sitting next to my father for the long drive to Pennsylvania. I considered telling Mr. Widemouth that I was leaving, but even at 5 years old, I was beginning to suspect that his intentions were not to my benefit, despite what he said otherwise. For this reason, I decided to keep my departure a secret. My father and I were in the truck at 4 a.m. He was hoping to make it by Pennsylvania by lunchtime tomorrow with the help of an endless supply of coffee and a 6-pack of energy drinks. He seemed more like a man about to run a marathon, not one who was going to spend 2 days sitting still. Early enough for you? My father asked with a hint of sympathy. I nodded. I placed my head against the window, hoping for some sleep before the sun came up. I felt my father's hand on my shoulder. It's the last move, son. Promise. I know it's hard for you. How sick have you been? Once Daddy gets promoted, we can settle down. You can make friends. I opened my eyes as we backed out of the driveway. Mr. Widemouth's silhouette was in my bedroom window. He stood motionless until the truck was about to turn to the main road, at which point he gave a pitiful little wave goodbye, steak knife in hand. I didn't wave back. Years later, I returned to New Vineyard. The piece of land our house stood upon was empty, except for the foundation, as the building had burned down a few years after my family left. Out of curiosity, I followed the deer trail that Mr. Widemouth had shown me. Part of me expected him to jump out from behind a tree and scare the living bejesus out of me. But I felt that Mr. Widemouth was gone. Somehow, he tied to the house that no longer existed. The trail ended at the New Vineyard Memorial Cemetery. I noticed that many of the tombstones belonged to children. The end. I like how I end, no matter what the story is, I end with a very chipper the end. Because that's how you say the end. Oh gosh. That messed up my throat. You know, that one's still good. I think this was the second one I heard. I think the first one was Isles Jack. This one was the second one. I don't know what the third one was. I swear she read a third story. I don't think it was Jeff the Killer, though. It was probably some weird, obscure one. But let's go to the tier list. Why do I have like 5 tabs open for this? I only need 1. Let's go to the tier list and let's rank it. Zoop. Mr. Widemouth. I feel like this one, it still holds up. It's good, it's creepy, it's nothing too graphic. So I feel like I actually would have a higher chance of sending it to someone, you know, versus Laughing Jack, which like gets really extreme. But I also do have the nostalgia bias, I will say that. But I do think this one's good. Because also as a kid, you're like, yeah, it's kind of scary. He's trying to get the kid to die. But, like, I don't think you really understand peer pressure until you're, like... I don't want to sound, like, pretentious, like, oh, kids don't get anything. Because, like, you do understand it in some cases. But I feel like you understand a little bit better of, like, how stressful it can actually be. Especially when you're a kid, when someone's like, no, do this, do this, do this. It's safe, I promise, just do it. And, like, you do see the kid being slightly influenced. Like, I'm not gonna leave bed. No, do it. Just leave the bed. Come on. It's gonna be fine. Just do it. It's fine. It's just fine. Do it. So I feel like it has actually gotten a little bit more creepy, where this thing is preying specifically on 5-year-olds, because I've had a lot of friends around your age that move into the house and end them. And you know he's probably been doing it to families, considering it was a large house. It was just a weird coincidence that family only had 1 kid. So I'm gonna put it in A tier. It is on the more creepy side. Like, Jeff the Killer is in A tier because it's funny. This one is more in A tier because it is creepy, but it's not overly horrific. Like, I wouldn't do this. I would not traumatize my 7-year-old niece. But if I was going to traumatize her with something, it would probably be more along the lines of Mr. Widemouth than, say, Smile Dog or Jeff the Killer. Also, Mr. Widemouth is a little bit more timeless, with its fear being based in peer pressure versus being based in, like, say, chainmail with Smile Dog. But cool stuff. Cool story anyways. Cool story anyways. Who cares? Whatever. Sorry, I was checking on my dog. No, my froze. No. Oh, don't say it ain't so, baby. Camera off, camera on. Because I was not in the camera. Okay, there we go. Probably. Until I can lock out of it again. Which is bound to happen. You know what? Screw it, let's watch some Marble Hornets. Because I can't think of another story that I would like to read right now. So let's... I gotta change my settings. Give me a second. Gotta change my settings on that. You know, actually... You don't get to see me searching Marble Hornets. You don't get to find out what my YouTube homepage looks like. That's my secret. That's my burden to bear. I will share a fun story first while I'm pulling this up, though. So I worked at the Bath and Body Works. Yesterday was my last day. I'm just starting in a new company soon. I make that sound way more serious than it is. But where is this? Because I searched it up the other day. There it is, Marble Hornets. Wee wee. Calm down. You're crashing out, girl. But I was talking to one of my coworkers, and I was like, horror. You like horror? And she was like, oh my gosh, I love horror. Let me tell you, Mike Myers is the best. He's my favorite, like, you know, stuff like that. And I was just like, oh, it's so cool. So I've been watching this like really early YouTube indie horror thing called Marble Hornets, and I really like Maskey. Here, let me show you a picture of him. And I showed her a picture of him, and she's like, oh, he's creepy. And I was like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. He's creepy, but Mike Myers isn't. I thought that was the point. I thought we were sharing them because they were creepy and we liked them. So apparently I failed that conversation, but you know, whatever. I guess it's a personal issue. A personal, my own gripe. Oh. Anyways, yeah. So yeah, I'm the weird one for liking Maskey, but I'm also the weird one because I said that I like L from Death Note, and I told that to a guy I had a crush on, and he was like, that's weird. And I was like, okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I'm weird for liking the nerd. And you might say, well, he is weird. Okay, what's the other option if I'm gonna like any character from that? The homicidal maniac Light? Yeah, I guess. I just realized I never announced I was streaming. Give me a second. I gotta steal my link so I can send it. Get this. Get the link. No, I just need to copy the link. It's like, you can't open this because you're doing it. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm just trying to get the link. Okay, I got it. I got the link. Okay, I'm just gonna pop into my Discord that I need to delete. Okay. Add a video. Ping. I'm live. And reading the spooky. Paste. Is Discord crashing right now? Or is my internet not actually fixed? They said it was fixed, but... Okay, it might have just been a Discord issue then. And then I should probably also tweet that I'm reading creepypastas. I'm reading -- watching creepypastas. Period. Join me. I know you're not technically supposed to put your link on Twitter because they don't want you leaving the website or something, so you're supposed to like leave it in the comments. But no one really ever sees my stuff anyways, so does it actually matter? Dang, both of my YouTubes calling me out for being a little dweeb. Maskey. Okay, so now I'm gonna open this video first and full screen it. Nope. Nope, stop unpausing it. I'm just trying to rewind it to the front. Ugh. My gosh, this is a freaking amateur show over here. Okay. And then I have to edit myself to have the invisible background. Just color picker, select. Okay. Exit. Exit. We good? We good. Make me tiny. Make me small little baby. Little itty bitty baby. And my little homunculi in the corner over here. Make me a little bit bigger than that. At least make it partially good reaction content. Oh, I gotta resize this. Because right now you don't get a good... Actually, I think you might have the perfect view. We'll see. I'll see if anything gets cut out as we go. What the fuck is that in Japanese? Give me a second. I want to know why it was Japanese words. Why is it in Japanese? I guess they added that themselves. Because there's no way way this video is actually in Japanese, right? Hi, Wendy. Aw, she's under my desk again. She went the correct way this time. Oh, good girl. So if we remember from the introduction video, these technically aren't in order. I think it's implied all of them are recorded by his friend Alex, but I don't think that's the case. I think they might have changed that later on, because I think we have things from whoever the uploader is. And I guess the subtitles are in Japanese for whatever reason. Okay. After viewing a couple of tapes and finding nothing unusual, I came across a clip that doesn't fit in with the others. Give me a second, I just realized something. Yeah. I've been recording Mr. Widemouth for way longer than Mr. Widemouth is, because I forgot to turn it off. After viewing a couple of tapes and finding nothing unusual, I came across a clip that doesn't fit in with the others. From what I can tell, the following footage takes place inside Alex's house, not the set of Marble Hornets. The audio has been removed. Either the microphone was disabled at the time or was taken out afterwards. Did you guys see that? Oh. Oh, dang, it's not in the easy ones. We'll have to manually pause this. Okay, so nothing there. Right there. That's the Slendered Man. And, like, it's pretty... I don't even think they have, like, any limb enhancers, which makes sense. Because as I mentioned in the last stream, this was filmed really soon after the original Slender Man stuff came out. So the fact they have a morph suit is even really impressive. Like, I know that's, like, the base to, like, smooth out the features. But, like, you know, I'm giving them props. I'm giving them any props I can. I feel like he should be a little bit more hidden. That's just a personal thing, though. Like, honestly, for what it is, it's better than anything I would do. I wouldn't even think to include this. I'm not creative enough for that. Oh, his head turns. I didn't realize that before. Then again, it's hard when you don't have features to show that your head's turning. This was the only thing that was out of place on this particular tape. After seeing this clip, I'll keep an eye out for occurrences similar to this one in the future. You know, short, sweet, gets to the point. Entry 2. After a few more hours of tapes, I found this clip of Alex talking while driving. For now, I will assume that this probably took place before the events of Entry 1.
I got home late tonight and I was taking Rocky for his walk about 20 minutes ago, so around midnight.
Guys, this is bad news. I think Rocky's a dog. We know what happens to dogs in creepypastas. We've heard they either got human teeth or they don't make it.
This was near the set of Marble Hornets. A little bit farther down the road, we saw this really tall guy standing in the middle of the street, just completely still. For whatever reason, this really set off Rocky, and he got really scared. He wouldn't move, and he kept on pulling on his leash to go back home.
Is this implying that he was just going to keep walking towards the strange tall man just standing in the middle of the darkness? Because that's what it sounds like. Like, I've owned dogs. A lot of dogs are very protective of their owners, so especially, like, after dark, they're more wary towards anyone. Like, Wendy will give me hell if someone happens to be getting out of the car at the same time that we're getting out of the car. But I do also just really like the implication that he's just like, oh, come on, bud, it's just a tall man. Oh, you trying to tell me you're scared of tall people?
There was something about this guy that was it was strange. So we headed back home. I have a little bit of time left on this tape, and I'm going to go see if he's still hanging around. In fact, I think this is the light that he was standing under.
So I get you have to have the curiosity for the story. And also maybe this is because I'm a girl and I have like slight paranoia type things. But Your dog reacts violently towards seeing someone. You get bad vibes from them, and you're just like, I don't know, let's see if we can find him. Let's see if we can find him and film him. Like, that's just... I love it. I love it because although I can't relate to it, I know that there are definitely people like that. I say this because there was children that I think they thought the house I lived in was abandoned or something. I don't know whose kids they were. I just know that they saw a cat inside, which was my roommate's cat, and they kept peering in the windows until they saw me and they freaked out and ran away. And I left the room because I was doing something else. And I swear they were peeking back in the windows later. It was just like the living room too, so it's not anything creepy. We close the blinds every night, but the urge of curiosity, I know, strikes some people harder than others. Mine causes me to go down rabbit holes, but personally, if I see someone and I get bad vibes, I'm just like, okay, vibes, I'm gonna read it. I'm not doing it. not gonna try and interact with that person. But you know, that's a personal issue, I guess.
So I'm going to have a look here.
Oh my god, I just realized it's also like midnight because he was like, oh, we got back from filming and I took him on a walk around so it's like midnight to 1 a.m. and he's doing this. Like, no. I could never. Bad vibes, plus it being the literal middle of the night in what looks like the middle of nowhere? No. No.
Okay, you can't really see it well on the camera, but I don't see anyone around here, so I guess he's moved on. But yeah, there's just something about that.
The tape ends there. From what he described, I think he has seen something similar to the figure that appeared in entry number 1. Okay, I actually want to talk about the previous video while we get number 3 squared up. I know that I'm talking really harsh. That's because I'm a jerk. But I actually do really like the little bit we've seen thus far. Because obviously they don't have the Slender Man. He's very busy. He doesn't have time for all these, recordings and stuff. So they got to get creative. And I do think it's a good amount of creativity because I feel like even in video 1 where he's there, he's not as much of a jump scare. You're expecting him to look out the window and see something. They could have made it a jump scare, but they didn't. He was there and it was more downplayed. And I feel like entry number 2 is like anticipation building. Yeah, you could picture the Slender Man happening at the end of the video, like, oh my gosh, there he is. But having the tape just cut is way more impactful. And it's nothing too hard to film. You don't even have to have someone dress up as Slender Man in the second video. So I think it's very good, like, impact storytelling, where they don't have, at least not yet, they don't have these traditional jump scares that we're used to, Five Nights at Freddy's style, loud sting of music, chasing. It's really downplayed, but I feel like it does impact how you feel about the final piece. Because then it's more of a dread building instead of just like, okay, we're gonna get our big scare and then it's gonna be done, Okay, entry number 3. I'm starting to notice a vast majority of the tapes are completely unrelated to Marble Hornets. At some point, it seems Alex began filming himself exclusively. The following clips are taken from roughly 12 tapes. So that's also good, because that's what this YouTube channel is named off of. That was the premise we were given in introduction, that we were going to be watching a movie. But everything we've seen, I think we're going to start seeing some scene stuff, but everything we've seen until this point is Alex. And that is because it's been weird. He's like, this isn't related to the movie at all. But as he keeps watching these tapes, he's like, yeah, no, this has nothing to do with the movie. And that is the thing that you would probably want to point out. If you're like trying to watch all these clips and stitch them together so you can get the, student film project so it can see the light of day, which I'd be really cool if we we do end up seeing a couple more clips instead of just behind the scenes stuff. I don't know if we will, but they would just be cool if we did. Especially if we had a breaking of character for that moment. But having it be like, yeah, I was looking through her reference folder, and then all of a sudden there was this weird thing. You would point out the weird thing instead of everything that makes sense. So I do like that as well. They weren't trying to just be like, Act 1, oh, there's a thing in the background. Oh, Act 2, oh, it's a little bit weird. Like, they are just straight up being like, hey, this is the weird part. Look at this weird thing. And that is what's impactful. So I do like that. They're doing a lot with the little they have. Me when I'm in the middle of a drawing and it doesn't look quite right. That bushes. Oh, he's inside. He's looking outside. Okay, it's really blurry. I want to try and see what he has, though. Because I feel like we should be able to at least get an idea of what it is. Okay. He's in more of the hardware section, I think. I don't know what these are. So that looks like a toolbox or something, I think. So maybe this is like nails or screws or X-Acto blades or something. It doesn't help that this is filmed 15 years ago, and the camera quality back then versus average camera quality now is, you know, very different. I don't think they were working with the highest quality stuff either, because like this seems very much like a project of passion, which I am all for. But that does make that scene a little harder to see exactly what they were doing, which I feel like is kind of important, because I feel like this is like tension building stuff. Is this Alex? Oh gosh. That's good. I hate that though. Yeah, based off of the fact that he was the one who turned off the camera, I'm gonna say that was probably Alex. And the looking out the window when there was no sound, I do that. It's not a fun feeling, so I hate seeing someone else do that. I hate it when my dog does it, where she's just like sleeping and all of a sudden she gets up and just like moves around and like looking around. I'm just like, what did you hear, baby girl? What is there? And then he checks the watch too, which is also bad vibes. Outdoor ambiance. It's the middle of the day, he's peering through the windows. From what I've been seeing so far, many of these tapes contain nothing substantial. Although it does seem that Alex wanted to have a camera on himself at all times. The clip from entry number 1 is still the best lead I have so far. Lead of what? Of, like, just why he quit making Marble Hornets? I don't remember if he mentioned something in number 1. Clearly he is trying to investigate something, though, but I just don't know what it is. Entry number 5. Before Marble Hornets began production, I went location scouting with Alex. I filmed him talking about the locations he was interested in using. I came across one of these tapes containing this footage that had its audio severely distorted.
Alright, it's recording.
Okay, so so everything we have seen, minus introduction, has been recorded by Alex. However, this is now whoever the filmer is. I don't think we've gotten a name for him yet, because he's just been using I for himself. This is his recording, and this is before Marble Hornets started. Presumably, Marble Hornets is going to be whatever caused everything to happen. I'll put it like that.
Okay. This is the gazebo where I want Brian to come back and reflect. Later in the movie, this will probably be about 3/4 of the way through.
This will just be by himself, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking about maybe putting in his...
Okay, now that the audio's distorting, I think we have to check in the footage and see if there's someone just lurking in the background. I don't think there was any lurking in the last video. I wasn't checking super hard, but I didn't see anything too obvious. I wouldn't be surprised if there was someone somewhere. So we're just gonna back up to when the distortion starts happening. And we're just gonna start looking in the background for that.
Self, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking about maybe putting in his...
And if you're wondering why I'm checking the background for the audio distortion, Slender Man is rumored to mess with recording equipment. I don't know if that was in his original lore, because he was able to be taken on some photographs for his original creation in the Something Awful forums. But I do know that that was something that was later on added, of like why we can't get evidence of Slender Man, because you can't record him. I believe in the Slender Man the 8 Pages games, if he gets near you, you also start hearing ringing in your ears. It's part of like the Slender sickness or whatever. Which is why I'm wondering, was this tampered in post or was this tampered live? And he was present and destroying the audio.
And we'll have him like reflect and decide to actually go back to Sarah, try to win her back. And we got a good number of shots here. We have the stream down there.
I didn't see him. I don't. If you guys saw him, let me know. It's kind of hard with how bright some of the things are, and I think that that's on purpose. But this couldn't have been edited in post, since this isn't Alex's footage, which I think implies Slender Man might have been there. But I feel like we should see him then. I don't know. Well, I guess the distortion's not fully over yet, so I guess he could still be here somewhere. It's hard. He keeps looking at the sky, which then causes the camera to like bloom,
Area. It's very, I don't know, secluded, I guess.
It is. It's honestly beautiful landscape. 10 out of 10.
All right, this is going to be near Sarah's hunting camp.
Oh, is our guy Jay?
There's where we're going to do the bonfire scene.
Is that what it just said?
Alright.
Okay.
Alright.
Our main character, the person who's not Alex, so not our main filmmaker, but the person posting is Jay.
Hunting camp. Over there is where we're going to do the bonfire scene. Over by the fire pit.
Yeah.
I also want to have a shot of the next day where Sarah and Brian, I might also have Tim there at some point, are sitting around thinking about the past, talking about days gone by. I really like this place since we have the tree line that basically blocks off our entire shooting area, and we also have these really tall trees right in the middle.
It's just really tall, so I think it's cool. I like really tall trees.
What's that tall red thing over there?
That's what I was thinking.
Like a climbing wall or can't remember if it was a climbing wall or if fire
I can't remember if it was a firewall or the fire department used it. Climbing wall, I said firewall.
Although I wish that tall grass were all level or we had more of it. Just kind of
That is true. The grass does just abruptly stop.
I'm sure we can work a way around it.
In addition to the audio distortion, there have also been numerous instances of visual tearing. I've noticed these occurring in previous entries as well. Entry number 1. Oh yeah, the little split right there. I don't remember this in entry number 4. It's possible that I missed other occurrences of this in tapes that I have already watched. Did it skip number 4? Did it go from 3 to 5? Give me a second. give me a gosh darn cherry picking second. Entry 2. Oh, I messed up. Entry 2. I gotta scroll all the way down. Yeah, I just skipped number 4. Okay, that's why we didn't see number 4. Number 4 looks promising. It looks like it's on an abandoned playground. Why would it do that? Oh gosh. Entry number 4. I found another tape containing strange footage and no audio track. It's a little playground. Oh gosh, that one actually got me. I'm gonna admit it. Like, it wasn't even that scary. I just wasn't expecting it because we've only had like builders. This entry number of the other one's clip that I found that do not have sound. I'm starting to suspect that Alex removed the audio himself. Stop trying to give me number 9. I haven't even watched number 6 yet. Gosh. No, I said don't. Yeah, no, I'm not gonna lie. Number 4 got me. I'm surprised he didn't make a comment on the man. Like, I know that he was focused on the audio, but like he was really focused on number 1 about the entity, and then the entity's very like clearly dodging out of frame on number 4. Yeah, I was looking hard for him in entry 3 and entry 5. Did not think to check for entry 4, and then boop, he's there. Oh gosh. But yeah, I like this series. I am mean to it because I'm mean to everything, but I do think it's really good and really cool because I don't know. I'm not positive on how old these people were. I think that they were either late teens or early 20s when they made it, and this is ambitious. Also, just going out and filming in the dark, ugh, I would not want to do that. I need to like film a lot of things in the dark for things, and I'm just like, I'll do it later. And then I never do it, and that's why no one ever gets to hear my horror ARGs. But I am making one. I'm watching this. I'm inspiring myself. I promise. Mm-hmm. I'm not. I promise nothing. But based off of this so far, I can't even do it because we haven't met these characters yet. They're not part of it. Slender Man is. I feel like Slender Man, I have to find the like initial something awful form. He'll probably go S tier because of how viral he was though. And like he still kind of is. Yeah, we never really got a good proper Slender Man movie. It's because he doesn't really work with a movie. Here's the thing that I think a lot of people kind of forget when it comes to like good horror media. Not every horror thing would be good as, you know, a more mainstream one. Like Marble Hornets, I think that these short videos, these are great. I'm glad I can binge watch them and I don't have to wait months in between them. But I do think that's the proper way to to have uploaded them. I don't think having like a long form movie would be good. I think it's better if someone like reviewing stuff and then sporadically posting it. I do think that's better for that storytelling, not only because it lets it be cluttered while making sense, but it lets the anticipation just kind of sit there. I feel like movies are really good for like slasher and some psychological horror. I'm not going to say it's only good for slashers, but I do think a lot of like creepypastas are best as they're like little short blurb things. You know, some of them could probably be expanded upon, turned into books. You could probably have like, you know, one-shot videos on things like this. But I don't think a lot of things can become other things. At least not as easy as people think. I don't really know where I was going with that, but I think I'm gonna end stream. Sorry for that weird, like, ending. But yeah, this was fun. I definitely need to find other creepypastas that I'll check read them before I do it. I'll probably go through Slendy's Proxy's Mansion characters first. I know Mr. Widemouth isn't part of that, but like I said, I have a bias towards him, and I knew I could find his article pretty easy, because there are some, like, I haven't checked recently. This was like back in high school when I was, you know, doing my creepypasta research, but it's all kind of like whatever joke. I was trying to find one that was a Slender proxy, and I found an article, and it was entirely in Spanish. I knew it was the thing because it had the fan art of the character, but it was entirely Spanish, and I couldn't find an English version, and I didn't know if that meant that there was no English version, or if I was just like, the English version had a different name. Also, just for the record, I will probably not be reading things from No Sleep, at least not for this series, because although those are horror stories, they're not creepypastas. Those aren't ones that you're like necessarily sending to like scare your friends or like amuse your friends. It's not like that. I'm just gonna say that right here. The creepypastas are for like shorter things. I think Marble Hornets would probably be the longest thing on the list. I don't know if I can DM them. I'm going to try and DM the creator of Tiki Toby and ask if I can review Tiki Toby for this series. I know it's like sounds very pretentious. Like, oh, I'm so important, I'm going to review your character. But I feel like that's respectful because like they kind of, if I remember right, they were like, I kind of regret just kind of handing him over to like, you know, he stopped becoming my character. So I just want to make sure it's cool that I talk about him before I just, you know, do it. But also, that guy's not really online that much anymore. Maybe, I've checked a few of his links. He might be more popular on the one I haven't checked, so I'll have to check there. If not, I'll Twitter DM him. I don't think he uses Twitter, because his Twitter doesn't have anything, but he also, like, just X. Sorry, his X. He also only created his X, I think, last September or something, because someone was trying to claim to be him, and he was like, look, you can't, I already gave my character up, I'm not letting you just take him. But yeah, I think we're gonna call it good for today, though. Thank you for stopping by, and I hope you guys have a great day. See you later. Bye!